There's a second part to Nuralen's question, and this totally away from names. And Jahangir Sahib, if I could come to you with this, it's a question around Tahajjud prayer, the voluntary prayer which is said during the night hours. And the question is, do you have to sleep in order to pray Tahajjud? And I think the essence of the questioner is, do you have to, in performance of Tahajjud, it's often said, and the clarification sought, that you have to pray for that Tahajjud prayer to be a valid prayer. And can you still pray without sleeping after Isha?
Well, any prayer which you will perform at a permitted time would be acceptable. There's no reason why it wouldn't be acceptable because one hasn't slept before or not. But would it technically still be a tahajjud if you didn't sleep before it? Technically, we'd say, strict to censor, we'd say no. That wouldn't be tahajjud anymore, but it would still be nawafil. It would still be a, voluntary prayer which would be offered at the dead of night. And so if the person didn't manage to sleep, for example, it could happen that somebody had intended to sleep beforehand but hadn't managed to, then that person shouldn't be discouraged and say, oh, well, I haven't slept, so I might as well not say my tahajjud then. It wouldn't be a tahajjud, but it would still count as nawafil. There's no harm in that. But why is the tahajjud prayer called something different? It's because the actual letters within the word, coming back to the Arabic language, there are the letters ha, jim and dal, which in any permutation would be linked to one of its permutations, which is jahada, which means to make efforts, strenuous efforts to do something, to struggle to do something. And struggling with one's own self to wake up in order to be able to pray is the struggle which is intended here. And so that's why it's also one of the reasons why it's called tahajjud in the first place. So that's why it's also a prayer of great value, because one is actually struggling with one's own self to be able to do that good deed. But nevertheless, if somebody hasn't managed to sleep, as I suggested, they should, fulfill their desire to pray, although technically it would no longer, be called tahajjud.
One sort of side question which sometimes arises to this is, should tahajjud prayer, is it a collective prayer, i.e. with congregation, or is it an individual prayer? Or?
It's actually both.
Okay.
You can actually pray it, individually, or you could pray it in congregation. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad did used to sometimes allow his companions to join him in his nightly vigils, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's actually in the practice of our Jamaat also, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, to sometimes have congregational tahajjud prayers. For example, during the Jalsa Salana, it's a very auspicious event, and people are gathered there, and they're wanting to pray more, and they're wanting to get closer to God. So having it done in congregation is a great blessing in itself.
Something about the struggle of waking up, as Jahangir Sahib has rightly put it, it's interesting because sleep analysis is something that is quite a science nowadays, and they have actually put sleep into two different categories. One is rapid eye movements, REM, and one is non-rapid eye movements. And the non-rapid eye movements have 4 stages. The 2 last stages are of deep sleep. And that actually is what man gets into once he is asleep. He is in deep sleep. And in order to wake up from that is a struggle, actually. And in order to leave your bed disturbed from rapid eye movements or non-rapid eye movements, and then go and prepare for the tahajjud, that is the essence of the struggle that you're making towards waking up during the latter part of the night to say the tahajjud. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam, in fact, as you know, that one of the conditions of Ba'ath, he has actually emphasized, the emphasis that he has put on tahajjud is that an Ahmadi should be regular in his 5 daily prayers, and he should also be regular in his tahajjud prayer. So that is the importance that Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam has given to this very special time of special worship in the stillness of the night, and that is where one needs to concentrate in our efforts in that respect.
Gentlemen, Jazakallah for your answers there, very comprehensive as ever, and Nurullah Siddiqui, Jazakumullah for your question. I was slightly amused to read your final remark. She refers, Nurullah rather, refers to the show as a great show, but then says, I watch it religiously. Well, we'd expect nothing else. Thank you very much for your comments and kind remarks, and indeed your question.